Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone. My name is Kathy. As we had previously reported, Judge Megan E. Marshall has denied the City of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department's bid to get the EWU Media LLC public records lawsuit thrown out of court. By way of background, EWU Media, in February of this year, filed a public records lawsuit naming two respondents, the City of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department. This lawsuit was filed in Latah County because that's where the City of Moscow and the MPD are located. The matter was assigned to Judge Megan E. Marshall. You will recall that Judge Marshall was also the first judge who presided over the Idaho versus Kohberger case. And this lawsuit by EWU has called upon Judge Marshall to make findings of fact and decisions of law as to whether or not EWU Media's multiple public records requests that they filed in 2025 seeking records that were not publicly available, citing to the Idaho Public Records Act relating to the investigation into the crimes at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, the catastrophic events that happened there November 13th, 2022, and what they wanted was documents, things, videos, photographs. One item that they have identified from the beginning that they want disclosed to them is the interrogation video of Brian C. Kohberger. Detective Brett Payne, who was the lead detective in the case, flew out from Idaho to Pennsylvania to interrogate Mr. Kohberger, and this occurred shortly after his arrest. In the early morning hours of December 30th, 2022, in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, he was arrested by the Pennsylvania State Police. The two Pennsylvania State Police troopers who asked for the nighttime warrant in the affidavit of probable cause that was filed in Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus Kohberger were troopers Leary and Knoll. They received a special nighttime warrant that allowed them to go into the Kohberger family home, arrest Mr. Kohberger, take possession of certain items from the home, and also take possession of his car, a 2015 Elantra. This case proceeded for more than 2.5 years. He was sentenced on July 23rd, 2025, with the case closed. However, there remained the issue of so much information, particularly evidence, that was placed under seal during the pendency of the case. It has been almost a year now since sentencing, and but for certain documents from January through July 2025 that have been unsealed, some of them very heavily redacted by Judge Stephen J. Hippler, the third judge in the case still remains sealed. So backtracking now with respect to EWU Media, they filed public records requests last year. They received certain information they requested. Other information was denied to them. The items that they did receive, they say, were overly redacted to a point where it violated the Idaho Public Records Act. They are asking the court to order the City of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department to release the information that they have asked for, to declare that the Public Records Act was violated, and also they've made a request for reimbursement of their attorneys' fees and costs. Now, this case has been working its way through the judicial system in Latah County. There was the initial petition that the petitioner EWU filed that laid out what they felt that they are entitled to under the IPRA. There were also citations to the law and argument that the law has been violated here as it relates to the Idaho Public Records Act. Now, EWU's petition was not responded to in terms of the substantive allegations. In other words, when the city of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department responded as they did in April, they merely asked for the case to be dismissed. They stated this case was improperly filed. EWU Media was not registered to do business with the Secretary of State. And their argument, their position, the respondents, was that they could not avail themselves, speaking of EWU, without first registering. They should not have filed this lawsuit to begin with. They wanted it tossed. EWU fought hard against dismissal. They, in fact, went on to register with the Secretary of State on or about May 1st, 2026. But the issue was that a little bit too little? Was it a little bit too late? Both sides argued their positions very vigorously at a hearing before Judge Marshall on the 18th of May. And the court stated that she would take matters under advisement. She also set forth a schedule that day. Presuming that the case would survive dismissal, there is oral argument that is scheduled on the 5th of August, where both sides will then come forward and explain why, if it's the petitioner, that the Idaho Public Records Act has been violated here, and these items should have been disclosed. They want them disclosed, and they may also make a pitch for their attorney's fees and costs at this forthcoming August 5th hearing. On the other side, the respondent, they have filed a document thus far in the case, along with an affidavit from Ms. Batista, who is the city attorney. There's more documents to be filed this month leading up to this hearing by both sides and also the interveners. The interveners successfully moved for and obtained a partial injunction last year in Laramie et al. Versus City of Moscow. The interveners are the same plaintiffs from Laramie et al. Versus City of Moscow. Karen Laramie, Madison May Mogan's mother, and Stacy, James, and Maisie Chapin, the parents and sister of Ethan Chapin. They have thus far, through their representation by counsel, same attorney who represented them last year and got that partial injunction, pretty much aligning themselves with the city of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department in what they have written and what they have stated. Now, with this ruling that has just come down from Judge Marshall, big ruling in favor of EWU Media LLC, she has ruled that the City of Moscow, Moscow Police Department's request for dismissal denied on the grounds that there was a failure to register. If that request was granted, the case would have been done. It would have been closed. It would have been all over for EWU, who might have then gone back and had to refile again. That's not happening because of the denial of dismissal by Judge Marshall. So now we are waiting for documents from parties, and we have the interveners due to file additional documents during the month of July. When they hit the docket, we will, of course, let you know. A hearing on the 5th of August, oral argument, where we can expect to see EWU arguing in favor of their position The city of Moscow, the Moscow Police Department doing the same in favor of their position, and we expect that the interveners will continue to align themselves with the city of Moscow and the Moscow Police Department. Please stay tuned for further updates. Until next time, this is Kathy. Thank you for joining us here today.